right. So the question is about hearing healers talk about holding events or sessions or whatever for DNA activations or DNA upgrades. Is this possible for light language or um, to have some kind of impact? So let's just talk about what that is, at least here. So, um, so like so much that the records like to talk about, I guess, especially through me, is this whole thing about the difference between the static view and the dynamic view. So let's just talk about that real quickly for anybody that's listening that hasn't heard me say this before. So the static view is looking at everything from from the point of view of linear time and space, and explains everything from that perspective. The dynamic view is learning to look at things like, say, from the soul point of view, from the perspective of the infinite and the eternal. And it's to understand, like if you go into sort of the quantum physics descriptions of things, it's looking at things non-locally, but it's also not a non-local. There's not a physical reality limitation to non-locality. In other words, it's like the non-locality of the infinite and the eternal. So when you begin to kind of grapple with that difference between the static view and the dynamic view, one of the things that happens is that you begin to see that there's a lot of things that are described, especially within spiritual and like healing circles and stuff, that talks about everything from that static point of view. Everything's like from the perspective of the human body, or how the human body is, held within space, like and the etheric realm and the astral realms and the causal and all of that kind of stuff. And then it gets into this whole thing about, that we're adding other dimensions besides linear time and space, right? So that's where you start getting things like 4D and 5D and 6D and, on like that. And so within all of those ideas is that partly what, in order for you to like be able to be aware at those extra dimensions, there's things that you can do in your DNA to shift that. And, kind of depending on, I guess, who does it or what their perspective is or whatever, it'll have an effect. Everything from something that's, probably has no effect, really benign, to something that's actually a little more malicious. And the positive effect, though, that most of all of that would have is to instill within somebody the idea that several ideas. One is that they are whole and complete and they are not broken. There's nothing wrong with your DNA. There's nothing wrong with you. Then the next is that you are a worthy human being just as you are. There's nothing you need to do to improve yourself or prove yourself or any of that kind of stuff in order for your worth to exist and to be established, right? So you're whole and complete, you're worthy as you are, and that you can believe that you can learn to trust yourself and trust yourself to get to your truth. So there are going to be moments, so it could be a DNA activation, it could be a whole slew of different things, where the effect on somebody is that they're able to understand that, they're able to grasp that for themselves, right? That they're whole and complete, that they're not broken, that they're worthy, and that they can believe in themselves and trust themselves to get to their own truth. So if you're walking down that road, working all of those things out for yourself, then no, you don't need a DNA activation, mainly because then within that, you begin to see that there's more here than linear time and space. And the answer isn't to add other dimensions, whether physical or non-physical, to make it all work, because it already has a place, let's say a place, that it does work, which is non-physical reality, the non-locality of the infinite and the eternal. We are already connected there. We already have access there. There's nothing that we have to activate or make better or, do anything in order to have that connection and that understanding. But if you believe that somebody else has the authority over you to tell you, what you should and you shouldn't be doing, and how if you do this now, you're a better person. If that's where your belief structure is, well, then that's the direction you go. But that isn't what is necessary in order for you to get to wherever it is they say you'll get when you get activated. Right? And so the records are also fully aware that what they're talking about here, in a certain sense, is a different kind of activation. But it's an activation that happens within you through the empowerment of you as that whole and complete being, as that person who is worthy beyond measure and has nothing to prove. And that in that you believe in yourself and you trust yourself with the truth of who you are and how you want to show up in the world. So if you spend more, so whatever helps you get to that awareness is whatever helps get you to that awareness. There's no right or wrong or anything like that. It's just that the opportunity here is for you to do you, right? Like for you to, I call it move from inside out, right? You start inside and find your truth in. Not that there aren't things that can help you, not that you shouldn't listen to anybody else. It's that the locus, the center of your truth isn't external to you, it's internal. And when you begin to grasp that, then all of this stuff blowing around you becomes something that you can decide, is that truthful for me? Is there something in that that will help me? And then you can make a choice about whether you engage or whether you don't engage. And so it's not a matter then even of getting to what's right and what's wrong. It's getting to that place that you trust yourself to figure out what's true for you.